Aline.
Bonjour.
How is everything?
It's great to see you, and sorry for the other day. I was not properly set up.
Don't worry, it's fine. Everything happens for a reason. So let's begin. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Provided a number of boxes, if you will, have been ticked. I think the first thing is that you are fully cognizant that the seller is the legitimate owner of the piece at some point. That's why due diligence exists, right? That's what we do in our job. We always check the art loss register and the various database to make sure that this is not a stolen product, first of all, so that the owner, the person who sells it is legit to sell it. Second, that you have the specific paperwork. So sorry for getting a little bit technical on that front, but you have limitation to the circulation of exotic skins. So you just need to make sure that the bag comes with the correct paperwork and is allowed to be sold. But to me, provided those elements are met, and obviously there is an accountability of the seller. So if Farah, for example, goes back to Hermes for a repair.
I didn't say Hermes, but
or to any other brand for a repair of the bag or some, like the equivalent of a service for a watch, then if there is a debate about the authenticity of the bag, then the seller should take ownership and support Farah through this process. But for me, if those 3 elements are met, I think people have to be comfortable at some point with the fact that when you buy a property, it belongs the property of the new owner.
So in light of your comments, how can reputable organizations ensure legitimacy when holding, analyzing, and studying, authenticity, a piece of paper, representing authenticity, or the piece itself tangibly in your hands is arguably the main part of guaranteeing legitimacy while maintaining efficiency and being on par with new health regulations?
I think our client have been very active online and via private sales during lockdown. And from what I could witness, the focus on authenticity has, if anything, only increased, of course, because for that very reason that you mentioned, the fact that it's difficult for them to see it in with their own eyes and have their own taste commanded to analyze the piece that they desire. Therefore, our specialists have had to be their trusted pair of eyes, if you will, and they do so via a multiple number of means. Well, digital condition reports that are videoed and not just like written as they used to be, detailed photos and videos. And on that front, it's really interesting because our clients, especially in watches, for example, they've been used to seeing enhanced, very beautiful, photoshopped kind of pictures. And now they want what they call iPhone photos and iPhone videos, i.e. because they're going to show the piece exactly as is. And I think this relationship between the client and our expert has only been reinforced by this, because they say, okay, we trust the paperwork, we trust the invoice, we trust the official dimension, but we also want, on top of this, your honest view on, like the state of the piece and its quality. So I think this blend of what we used to do before and what we are doing now during lockdown is going to be, the future is going to be a mix of those two.
Okay, enlighteningly put. Now let's go to the second moment. Okay.
You've noticed I put the same headband.
Yeah,
that's my little.
Because you remembered, or by accident, like you?
Yeah, no, I remembered. So I felt like, let's put something that's going to be a little. That's still me. The same person. Notice.
And same thoughts, but in a new context.
Agree that this is ultimately a topic of ethic. By being invited to buy something that is so social supply, while everybody else would want it, you feel you're being given a privilege. And like any other privilege you get in life, you want to make a careful use of it, and you're conscious you're having something that maybe other people don't. So treat it correctly and carefully.
So Since crisis mode seems to turn people into financial panic mode, what kind of unethical behavior have you observed during this time of people treating pieces they were given the privilege to be invited to buy?
I would say also obviously crisis time and sometimes distressed sellers may attract more opportunistic buyers to any market, and watch market, for example, hoping to kind of buy cheap, resell high, and potentially change or alter the piece in the process along the journey. Our view is anyway that the financial driven aspect of collecting is not going to build for you the best or collection in the long term. I think a lot of the most important collectors that we know of on this planet in the field of watches, for example, are people who have selected the pieces more often than not going against the tide and against the trade and against the fashion at a time where things were not that popular, and they accumulated them, and importantly because they were driven by their heart. I mean, the emotion that this specific piece would create, notwithstanding the reaction that other people might have to the similar piece, and by their tastes, and this is how lifelong collections are built. So I would say yes, you might see a little bit more opportunistic players on the market when there is a crisis and more people are forced to sell or part ways with objects that they love. But I think the important thing, if you want to build up value for the medium long term, then you have to respect the watches as objects that are meant to last and to be somewhat emotion driven, which I know is not often what people think when they want to invest. But I think as far as luxury and art collecting are concerned, it's not a bad thing to be driven by your emotion. We had this client, Sandro Frattini, who is a longtime partner of ours, and when he explains to you that he used to buy Rolex Daytona in cart boxes, like 15 of them for $2,000 because they were not popular at the time, but he liked them. Now, obviously, when you look at the price of a vintage Rolex Daytona, you imagine the accumulation in value, but that wouldn't have been possible if at the time he had followed the fashion, because he got them for cheap because they were not fashionable.
Yes, or if you had been the one person who bought a Van Gogh,
Yeah, exactly. At the time, it's exactly what happened. I mean, as you know, Van Gogh was, he died very poor, and he sold only, about 3 paintings to his own brother in his lifetime.
Yeah. His brother, in hindsight, is the only one laughing now. Okay, let's journey back.
Blockchain is a very interesting topic. I think, first of all, I'm
not familiar with the term. Can you explain?
Yes, of course. The blockchain is let's say digital space where you can store information to make it public and forever.
I get it. Okay.
Blockchain. So the one thing is, blockchain if you look at things from two angles, the object and the client, of course, blockchain can be used for the client because it would be contrary to a very specific rule of law that exists in Europe called the data protection regulation. And I think the US is now considering developing the same thing. So basically everybody is due to its own privacy, and you can't store information relating to the client in the blockchain. What you could do, it would be to store information about the watch and the object in the blockchain so that people can just go there and check and compare. And that would be available for every one of us to be able to check this information. I think this is a very good idea, and some things that at Christie's we have already pioneered for some artworks, for example, for certain contemporary art collections. And we definitely look into this. It exists for diamonds already. So that is the type of things that we are definitely looking into. Of course, we have to be very cognizant that it could open the door to fakes also, because the moment we started to print in our catalogs serial numbers, then people started to produce fake with the same serial number, and they say this is an authentic watch because look, this is written in Christie, this is matching with the pictures they have here. So, but one was a fake and one was the original. So we have to give it really careful thought. What kind of absolutely non-reproducible information can you put in the blockchain so that it will really help the whole market, collectors, dealers, and auction houses and brands all together, or whether that will open another Pandora box about authenticity.
Okay, considering we have to be more vigilant now that our presence, is mainly online, have there been advances in protecting the blockchain when it comes to thwarting fake reproductions? And B, have these advances opened Pandora's box, as you had mentioned?
I'd say working on the blockchain improvement hasn't been a major focus of ours. Our priority has been to protect our staff, to stay in touch with our clients, knowing how they were doing, and also for some of them transacting as well via online sales or private sales. But it is true that it has only reinforced the need for caution because when you operate digitally, an extra level of scrutiny and caution is necessary for clients and professionals alike, with heightened value on the secondary watches market and multiplication of our digital outlets in general, then the fraud attempts are unfortunately likely to increase. So this is why we try to develop at Christie's an array of know your customer policies, compliance control that are both based on human intelligence and cutting edge technology. So human intelligence, for example, is our people being fully aware of the kind of pattern for fraudsters, and they have a flair for it. So they know that when a certain ID does not correspond to the IP address of the computer that is progressing the transaction, then that creates a little red flag in their mind, and we do increased controls in order to really focus on those cases that we think can be doubtful. Of course, we're trying to do this while maintaining a customer-friendly approach to bidding at Christie's, but this is something really important to us. And we do also leverage a number of cutting-edge technology who are able to help us detect fake IDs and also fake proof of address. So that's really important for us because we have to reassure our sellers and buyers that our watches are genuine, that we have discussed for authenticity, but also that our buyers are reliable so that our sellers are comfortable to sell with us. And it's also important to ensure that level of control from the very beginning of consigning a watch down to the delivery, because some fraudsters also to witness or observe certain clients and be aware that a watch is going to be delivered at their place and they would intercept the parcel. So this is really down to the very final, act of the acquisition that we have to be very careful when operating digitally.
Wow, so it's like mission impossible, it seems. I guess
yeah,
that,
well, they're very quick.
Yeah.
They're very quick to adjust. So we have to, they keep us on our toes for sure.
Yeah, wow. And so basically, I guess when you're vetting these or hiring these human experts, they have to be like forensic scientists, I guess, when they're analyzing, you know what I mean? They have to be that good.
Behaviors, and they have to cross past different sources of information. And again, patterns, it's one of the, let's say relatively common thing would be from a stolen credit card and then trying to operate a transaction and then trying to alter or to change the delivery address. Because obviously what they want is, to be delivered to them while it was bought on somebody else's credit card. And so they don't want the watch to be delivered at the original owner of the credit card's address, because that wouldn't do anything for them. So that's the kind of thing where we felt like, but if you are registered and your credit card is registered on a certain address, why suddenly would you want it to be in a different place? It could be a very legitimate reason. Then I'm spending my holidays in a different place, but then we would call the client and make sure that this is him. Because we feel like normally we would deliver a certain address. If there is a change of address, especially if this is done offline, so that it does not leave a trace, then that's the kind of thing you feel like that's one of those little red flags.
Okay. Have you ever hired You know the movie Catch Me If You Can? So have you ever have you ever had to hire, you know, a hacker or a fraudster to help you, like to consult with, to give you guys, you know, that advice?
That's a very good suggestion that I will bring to my HR department. But we're working very closely with companies that are exactly doing that. So having, you know, like ex-fraudsters working for them, and really developing specific projects depend on the needs of the company that they are working for. So yes, that's it's becoming a necessity.
Okay. It's becoming a necessity to know the enemy, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's key because, you know, like as we said, the minute anything has value, it gets counterfeited. I was amazed to learn from one of my friends working for you know, a big dairy Italian company that they also encountered fake mozzarella. So when you imagine the cost of production of mozzarella, people still give themselves the trouble of counterfeiting mozzarella, which indicates to you, you know, like how serious the business of counterfeit are. And we do know you have fake airplane spare parts, you have fake everything. It's not just the luxury product. It tells you that how, you know, like entire organized crime entities can go through the pain of in order to make like maybe the 10 cents on one object, but multiplied by the volume, it's a lot of money. So that's really something I think every single industry, not just the luxury industry, where the fake is obviously the highest ROI, if you will. Like you produce something for 1,000 and then you can sell it for 500,000, then that's obviously the ROI is enormous, more than it is on mozzarella or eggs, but it means it's a trend. So that's really something every single industry has to factor in.
Some people also like enjoy getting successful fakes that can pass, because of the satisfaction of knowing I only paid this amount and look at them.
I think, you know, like I would say like reversely, that there is a real intimate pleasure of knowing that what you have is the real thing. And that's why a lot of our collectors do appreciate, because a lot of them are wearing, I mean, we call that for jewelry, for example, beach jewelry. So they wear things that are sparkly, lovely, beautiful, but they are not the most precious because they reputedly go with it on the beach. And of course, you wouldn't wear the most precious jewelry, but you still know that at home in your safe, you do have the real thing. And it's really fascinating. I mean, some of our clients did have kind of a fake copy, or in order to be able to, you know, like go to places where they feel there was a little level of risk, and wear that, knowing that at home or in other safer environment, they would wear their real parure. So that was an interesting element to it. So I think there is still this idea of, you know, coveting your little own hidden treasure.
Yeah. Oh,
fortunately.
What a lovely way to put it, you know, coveting your hidden treasure. I like that. On that romantic note, actually, thank you for joining us from your busy schedule.
Thank you so much, Dom. Have a lovely day. Bye.
You too. Au revoir.